Welcome to Abuelas en Acción, a multicultural podcast for our common good. I'm Marie Dahlstrom, and I am here with my guest co-host, Marcia Robinson, and our newest co-host, Itzia Mejia, joining the Comadres of Abuelas. Bienvenidas. Here on Abuelas, we talk about the uncomfortable. Many of us are living with ongoing anxiety and fears about our future, including the impact of climate change. And in our new series, Nuestra Sabiduría, unwrapping our stories for soul-filled living, we're having conversations about ways to build our inner resources for our strength and resilience that we all need for moving through these intense and challenging times and coming home to ourselves, our sabiduría, our wisdom, our inner knowledge has been waiting for us, waiting for a long time to be reawakened. I am looking forward to our conversation with our guest today, Dr. Tanmeet Sethi, author of the book, Joy is My Justice. Dr. Sethi brings together the mystical, the linear, ancient wisdom, and modern science. She speaks very powerfully about the impact of racism. She talks about the immigrant experience on our bodies and souls. I have to say, I read her book once, and then I decided I needed to go back and reread it because she offers so much information and more importantly, tools for our joy and justice. Justice for our lives, our own bodies, and where we can find joy no matter what our external circumstances are. Joy is My Justice is a book of power and hope. Dr. Sethi writes, we have all experienced or are experiencing pain, trauma, loss, and grief. However, every step we take toward joy, even while living with our pain, our fear, or rage, is a radical act of justice that defies the oppressive weight of our pain and creates a powerful change in our biochemistry. I don't know about you, but I know my choice. And my choice is the story to take the journey and to understand what we all can do for the health of our cells in our body.
Well, and I couldn't agree more, Marie. I am so excited to be here with this interview today. Your book, Dr. Sethi, had so many layers. I feel I could write a book with my favorite quotes out of it. One of mine was, you seek joy to find your power. And I think our listeners today are going to find this conversation to be very empowering. First of all, let me just introduce you a little bit more. This is Dr. Sethi's book, Joy is My Justice, Reclaim What Is Yours, just published this year. And I've listened to it twice. My daughter's listened to it twice. I weep every time I listen to it because of your raw authenticity and that you're able to bring forward just that note that resonates with where I'm wanting to be growing. But for our listeners, let me just let you know that Dr. Tanmeet Sethi is a board-certified integrative family medicine physician and clinical professor at the University of Washington Medical School. She has spent the last 25 years on the front lines practicing primary care, working in global trauma, and community activism. Dr. Sethi has devoted her career to caring for the most vulnerable and teaching physicians how to care for these communities in the most humane and skillful way. She is a sought-after public speaker, and her TEDx talks offers a radical way to practice gratitude. So welcome, Dr. Sethi. Again, we are so excited to have you. We like to start out our Abuelas en Acción with the same question we ask everyone. So I'll pose that to you today to begin. You have talked so much about defining moments in your book. It seems like every chapter was a defining moment that spoke to us. But could you just narrow down maybe one defining moment, how it impacted your life? Is there just one that you might be able to highlight for us to kick us off?
Sure. Can I first just say thank you for that beautiful introduction? It gave me chills to hear powerful women speaking about me in that way. So I just want to give gratitude for that. And I also, please call me Tanmeet. You know, we're not in a power hierarchy here. So I'd like to let the doctor go. But yes, I speak about many defining moments, mostly because I think every moment of our lives defines us, and we have a choice every day and every moment. But I will pick one for you, because it feels pretty easy for me to pick the one that was the most starkly before and after. And that moment for me was when I was pregnant with my third child, 9 months pregnant with her, and received devastating news that my second child, barely 3 at the time, his name is Zubin, was given a life-threatening, fatal diagnosis of Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is like an ALS in young boys. And it was a moment of pure terror as a mother, and also a moment of pure reckoning. I had already been well in my journey of social justice since college, really, but throughout my whole career, and I fight back. When things aren't right, I fight, and I fight for myself. I fight for my community and all communities that need to fight, and this was the first time in my life that I felt there was nothing I could fight for, that there was nothing to change, nothing to hope for. The doctor actually said, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. And it began a journey of deepening what I already was doing with patients and with myself, in understanding that if I could learn to fight for myself, to fight for my own joy, I would experience the most radical liberation and justice I would ever know. And it doesn't mean that I don't still fight for external justice. I do every day. But what I know now is that my internal justice in my body is an act of resistance that allows me to step more powerfully into the world and fight back in a deeper way.
Well, and I think your book really holds that, because you're able to take the internal and the external and blend them together. You're able to take the ancient wisdom and your medical expertise in neuroscience and blend them. Your work as a mind-body therapist, I really felt like I was getting a treatment by listening to your book. And I do. It's my favorite road trip book. I put that on. And if anybody of our listeners are interested in listening to the book on tape, the difference is that you have the little chimes. And when you say, take a pause, and I'm using your language now, just even with my own grandchildren, like when there's conflict, I go, let's take a pause. And I want to have the little chimes, because it just switches up that neurochemistry in ways that I don't know if we've even defined. One of my other really great ways your book changed me is I have a new phrase, why not me? And I feel like you could have titled this book, Why Not Me? Why Not Us? Because there is so much power in that. So anyway, I loved how you blended your medical knowledge with the ancient wisdom and really navigated to synthesize your personal experiences and bring that to the table. So especially the traumatic ones. And I love how you acknowledge that every day we are having little traumas in our lives, sometimes big traumas, and those are all defining moments, how we respond to them. So one of the ways that I learned that you were working with the ancestral knowledge was in part of the book where you talk about a seminar that you attended and what a powerful experience that was. So my question for you is, when did you see the value and become interested in accessing ancestral knowledge and wisdom? And was it built into your culture of origin? Or did you access it later through your body-mind practice? And how can we promote trust in this kind of learning in the Western world?
Such a good question. My culture of origin is deeply rooted in ancestral wisdom and ancestral honoring. Yet, I don't think I had embodied that fully. I think that it is part of me. I understand it intellectually, and I've always thought it to be normal or thought it to be usual. But I didn't understand the power of how it could be in my life until I integrated it in this way. And I think partly it was that much of my culture, faith and daily life blend so much that it's hard to sift the two apart. And if I was having a moment of thinking in this spiritual journey that religion was not serving me, it often strayed me away from the ancestral practices, thinking that it could only be religious. And now I understand fully in my body for myself that ancestral honoring is far bigger than any religion. It is more about faith, not only in our ancestors, but in this world, this life. And now I understand that ancestral honoring is more about connection and gratitude, that I know that I am only here. I am literally only here because of the perseverance, the strength, the joy, and the heartache of my ancestors. Not only my direct ancestors, but my global ancestors. The land I live on is not mine. And so if it were not for the Duwamish and Salish peoples, I would not even be living where I am today. And it is not my land, it is theirs. So even that kind of honoring and that kind of understanding, but it's even deeper than that, Marcia. It's I talk about this in the book, but it's about an understanding that when we feel so alone in this world and in suffering and trauma, we usually do, in my experience as being a human and also a physician for so long, it is in ancestral connection that we can understand that we are never alone. So some days when I feel dark, and I'm going to tell you three, honestly, I did this literally the minutes before I came on this call. And what I mean is that I had a very, very difficult, challenging morning with my son. The details are not important. What's important is that I was in tears wondering, can I keep doing this? Do I have the strength to be the caregiver I want to and still mother him and my other children? I'm tearing up thinking about it because it's a daily question sometimes. And I was in the thick of it. And I had to stop. I dropped them off at school. I stopped on the way back, took some deep breaths, and literally thought about all the mothers who must have suffered and doubted themselves and wondered in the way I am right now, the mothers of my direct lineage, but all lineages. And I harnessed on their power in that moment to say, you are here with me. If you did it, so can I. And so it is a daily practice for me now. And I hope that example gives a way for listeners to understand that it is not, ancestral honoring is not something woo or something magical or mystical. Yes, it is magical, actually. I'll take that back. But it is pure radical gratitude.
Well, you've touched me once again. What can I say? And I hope things really smooth over. Hope you have some really beautiful, calm waves in the big waves of life that seem to hit us unexpectedly. So,
thank you. I'm having one right now in connecting with the three of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
I told these women I wish I could connect with them every morning. So there certainly is power in that. And now I'll turn it over to Itzia. She's going to take the next question. Thank you so much, Tanmeet.
Thank you, Marcia.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I wanted to kind of add and ask and kind of go a little bit more in depth of kind of what you said of like using our ancestors to kind of fuel our loneliness and our isolation and kind of connecting with them in that way. And I was just wondering that, going on with a lot of your work with global trauma and seeing how it has affected my peers, my generation, of being able to kind of take in this information and want to create this change and want to feel motivated to keep fighting. But I know that a lot of times we are constantly bombarded by social media and all these kind of negative aspects of what's happening. And it is very difficult to kind of keep that motivation and that strength of, if we're going to such a difficult time, it kind of goes back to that question of why should we even care if the inevitable doom of the world is going to happen. So my question is, when we how was it that you could kind of bring in these tools, and what could we have to kind of work with and remind us to keep going and seeing the hope into a brighter future?
Well, Itzia, first I want to say I'm honored you would even think that I could offer wisdom on such a amazingly powerful question. But I will give you what I feel on that. I will tell you also that there's a saying in the Quran, actually, that translates into, when you can't find hope, you look for it in the eyes of another. And I will tell you, just even hearing someone who is a student in a university who is wondering about how to navigate this angst and this ability to sustain the capacity to be in this world and fight is giving me hope in this moment. And I literally want to tell you that that is how I think and live all day. I look for the itzias and I look for the hope. And when I see it, I swim in it and I honor it. And so I want to say it out loud and tell you that right now. This world is brutal. Brutal. I cannot take that. I cannot even change that. I can change what I can change day to day, but I will tell you, I too am plagued daily with the angst, the existential angst and the real angst of this world, the earth, everything burning literally in front of me. And yet, what I will tell you is that I used to think that I can only fight well if I keep fighting. And what I'm going to tell you is that I know now that the only way for me to fight well is to also rest well, is to also swim in my joy well, to also, it is not just about, you hear people saying sustain yourself so that you can be better at what you do. I honestly, that's a little bit BS for me. I think I get to sustain myself because I deserve it, because I'm a sacred human being that deserves to be tended to and nourished. And this world often does not nourish me or tend to me. So I must do that for myself. And that means that justice in this world comes by also the days where I remember that my body is not a machine. It is not here to fulfill some factory cog protocol. I'm here also to rest, to exude joy, to be a beacon to myself and to whoever else I may meet that day, that we deserve to be radiant beings. And I really mean this, that the fight to justice, I used to think that joy and justice were different things. I used to think that if I stopped to be frivolous, quote unquote, or careless, by being joyful or practicing my joy, then I was not doing my justice work. So they were separate. And not only were they separate, I felt guilty about the joy. So I put it aside. And what I'm going to tell you now is that they are so interlinked because systems of oppression, every system of oppression, thrives when we do not. They thrive when they have taken our power. They thrive when they have taken our humanity. And when we remember that we are full human beings who deserve to also take a break from that darn social media and the barrage of news, when we deserve to take a break from whatever we think we have to do, then we are claiming justice in those moments as well. The fight never stops, but it gets to look different when we want it to look different. I hope that that helps answer that magnanimous question a little bit, but if not, I'm happy to go on more.
Thank you so much. I think even I'm getting teary-eyed because that's just something that I don't think we hear a lot, especially amongst my peers, of having it's okay to take that breath and it's not a selfish thing. And I think it even plays with kind of that guilt that we feel of our we always focus on, oh, our ancestors worked so hard, they sacrificed so much, now you have to do the same. They worked constantly, you now have to do the same. If you want to be successful, you have to give up that joy. If you want to be able to bring joy, you have to sacrifice so much before that to get something that you want. And I think having you telling us this, and our listeners, it's very enlightening. And just hearing the words that it is okay goes a really long way. And especially, I kind of want to go back to what you said about connecting with our ancestors and seeing them through that. And I think a lot of times something that we don't really focus on when we do talk about our ancestors' sacrifices, for example, we don't see that we don't have to do the same ones that they do, but instead we would maybe honor them in such a way where we can care for ourselves and see my ancestors' resilience is still within me, but it is now for myself, for my advocacy, and in order to change others, kind of how you were saying, and being able to see the hope in others' eyes. I also think that that is something that fuels me, and being able to, I mean, like you said, as a college student, I do want to also teach younger students. And I see what you said about our generation. I see that in their generation as well. And so it does bring a lot of hope to kind of see that although we are going through difficult times, that there is still that few students that have that motivation and can see the world in an open perspective and kind of feel that they have the chance to kind of move forward and keep going.
Itzia, can I say one more thing? I really want to say this because I do a lot of interviews and not everyone goes into all of this. And I'm really so grateful that you all are willing to swim in what I think is the most, important thing that we need to talk about. What I would say is that I am realizing in myself, we all, keep growing and deepening in this journey. What I am realizing is that my ancestors not only suffered and sacrificed, but there is no way, no one can convince me that there is no way that they also did not have joy, because I know for a fact that my ancestors would not have survived to the way they did for me to be here if they had not found their joy. And I will tell you that Marcia said it in the beginning. I say this all the time. It's not seeking power to find your joy. Seek joy to find your power. There is a reason that the narratives and the stories we have been given about our ancestors are only about suffering. Why would they want us to see them powerfully in their joy? Because then we might claim ours, and boy, the world would have to watch out.
I completely agree. And I think that's something that I have slowly become to learn, that there is some fulfillment to our journey when it comes to having this joy, this fun, these connections with other people. When you have those moments where you're laughing amongst friends or in your family across dinner, I know, like you said, and kind of reflecting that too, where I wish I'm gonna go home and tell this to my mom. I'm gonna be like in Spanish, translate everything that I can, because I think not only is that helping me and my work within myself, but something that I always want is, for my mom or my grandma to also, realize this, because I feel that they still know that narrative. And it kind of also goes back to the importance of, telling one's story. And that's something that through my college career, I've worked with workshops to do so, because it is such an important thing, not only where you can draw resilience, but I think a lot of times and I've seen this in a few trends of students sharing their stories, they do focus a lot more on, their sacrifices, their journeys, things that happened to them. And I want to move away from that. And I think this is a big start for it. And I really want to take this back to my peers and share with them and kind of rework some workshop about telling our stories in this aspect of not just our sacrifice.
I love that. I love that. We need to travel around the world and just do that in different languages. I love it.
Oh, please.
Yes, I couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so Tanmeet, could you, we want to continue to have this conversation about our families. Many of us come from families who have experienced trauma, such as poverty, grief of leaving our countries of origin, violence, and racial injustices. In fact, I would like to share your book for so many reasons, including all that have been mentioned by Marcia and Itzia, very much touched me. The one about the racial injustices and those micro aggressions that happen on a daily basis, in particular, if you as a child, and not having the wording to be able to describe what you're experiencing. I had never called it trauma before. I'll be honest with you. I grew up in my brother and I were the two only brown kids in our big neighborhood, in our schools, and my parents, being immigrants, were so protective. They didn't want to hear about our stories, and they were busy, making a living to keep us, safe and well fed. And but I'd never ever considered it personal trauma. I've had trauma, as we all have, but thank you for giving me the language and the opportunity to name it, which is another reason why we highly recommend you get this book. It will change your life. But please talk to us about this trauma affecting the family tree and the intergenerational impact of trauma on all throughout the generations.
Yeah. We know now, Maria, as you know from reading the book, we know now science has shown that this trauma lives in the family tree, that it is passed down in our DNA, not just in our what we may have thought of as nurturing, as stories, that actually we change our DNA through the ways that we have to live in fear and hypervigilance. And that can make our future generations more fearful and hypervigilant. I think there's some evolutionary reason for that, right? I mean, there are reasons to be fearful and vigilant. I watch my back. And so I'm not sad that I watch my back, meaning I'm glad I can know to look out for myself. But how can we find safety and ease yet in moments in our body? How can we know that we deserve to feel safe, even when, especially when I'm looking behind my back when I don't need to, right? My vigilance is hard to turn off. And so the practices in the book really work to down regulate our nervous system and offer ways for our brain to turn off the threat centers, not because the world isn't scary. I will never dispute that, but because we deserve to walk back into the world feeling a sense of safety in our body, even when the world doesn't feel safe to us. And so it's really, really enlightening, the science that has shown us that the trauma lives on in the DNA. But what I also would offer is what I offer patients every day when I say, yes, trauma lives in your body, but that's also where it heals. And so that's why we must step back into our body and work to reclaim safety, power, and ease.
And you offer so much of that in your book, and it's very layperson friendly. You offer the science, but you explain it. And I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
The final question that we have for you is, you've talked about gratitude today, and I would, everyone will probably agree with me. We are so grateful for this opportunity to talk to you, Tanmeet, today. This is beautiful, it's heartfelt, and as Marcia often says, there's magic when women get together.
I agree.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially multi-generational. This is really powerful.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that, because we are thrilled to have Itzia join us, the abuelas, because we abuelas have a certain way of looking at life, and we need to hear from our younger generation, how they see the world and what we can do, we older people can do to roll up our sleeves and make our communities and the world a safer place. You write in your book, and I love this. I had heard about the science of gratitude, but I had no idea the impact. And you write about that gratitude impacts our bodies on par with exercise or high intensity interval training. And the gratitude is real science and magic all of the same. In fact, I shared it with my husband. I said, gratitude is up there with exercise. He kind of gave me a puzzled look.
Yeah.
And please talk to us a bit about that power of gratitude and what we can do to make it part of our daily lives.
Yeah. I think, Marie, gratitude has just bad PR, poor gratitude. You say gratitude and people sort of roll their eyes like, oh God, you want me to get out my journal and write 3 things I'm grateful for? Like, I've had enough of you. And what I would say is all that science is true too. I would say get out your journal and do that. And what I would say is it's far deeper than that, is that gratitude is about looking back at your life instead of away. It's about saying, what is here in front of me and where is the goodness left in me and the world, despite what I may be going through today. It's a way to reclaim power. It's a way to say that my life and what is in front of me matters. Now, you can, depending on how you practice gratitude, my whole TEDx talk is about being grateful for the hardest things. And people will often say to me, that feels too hard. What I would say is it's just an invitation. I'm not asking you to be thankful for everything today. I'm asking you to just start by being thankful for what you can be thankful for today. And slowly but surely, if you really commit, to being grateful, along with whatever else you're feeling, you will slowly walk into the most powerful way I have learned to live life yet. And that is, I gave you that example today. I will tell you, I came home in tears thinking, oh God, I have to be on video pretty soon. I'm not, here I am crying. But what I really want to honor is that I did not think, oh, I need to be grateful. Today was hard, but I'm able-bodied and I have work I love and I should be grateful. That is not how I practice gratitude. How I practice gratitude is I cry. I say, this is so brutal. This is so hard. I am so grateful that I could, in that moment, I also sent a very quick, I didn't have enough time because I had to come to this, right? A very quick voice note to some deep women friends who I could say in tears, I'm feeling so alone right now. And I was grateful for that connection. I am grateful I'm able-bodied. I am grateful I have work I love. But I don't need to make those excuses for my pain. There is a difference when we say, what am I grateful for in this moment versus I should be grateful for this and this. People have often told me, I think they don't anymore because now I speak enough and I've written a book, so nobody's going to say it to me again. But people have said often to me, at least you have 2 other healthy children. Now, they only mean well, but what I will say is it does not land well. The way it lands is it dismisses my son who is dying. It dismisses my pain as a mother. And yes, I am grateful for those 2 other souls. But it is only when I have gotten to a place to be able to say with full faith and authenticity that my life is perfect, not despite my son Zubin, but because of him, that then I can be grateful for all 3 of them in the way that truly fuels a practice of power and joy in my body. And so gratitude is far bigger. Now, if you are a listener and you are in an acute or even a trauma that has been in the past but still lives acutely in your body, practice it gently. Practice it in the way that feels right to you. No one forces us to be grateful when we can't, okay? But science has shown, and Maria and Marcia have read this and listened to this, that there are powerful ways we can recast our stories of trauma by being grateful for who we are through it. I want to be careful that I never, ever, with a patient or myself, try to recast a story of oppression as a story of good. Never, never. But what I do is make sure that I or the person I'm working with finds the goodness in themselves that has still remained through it. That is a very different kind of gratitude recasting. And so there are ways that you can read about in the book to do this. But what I would say to anyone is start where you can. Some days when I am so lost and it's so dark, sometimes I'm just grateful that I still feel it all, because that means that I'm not gone. It means I'm still winning. I still have my humanity. So if you can see what I'm saying, it's not about trying to make it rose-colored. It's about saying, where can I still find the goodness that I know exists in myself or this world?
I'm sending you a virtual hug.
I'm taking it.
Your family, friends, patients, all who know you, and you have expanded your circle of, of family and friends who are so blessed by your gift, the gift of you. And thank you for bringing your gifts and your heart and your expertise to us today. This will be a very well listened to episode, and we are so honored and grateful that you were with us today. Before we ask you for your final thoughts, Marcia, Itzia, please share any final thoughts.
Well, I just like to say, Tanmeet, that we stand with you in your tears and we stand with you in your joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I'm very, very grateful for this conversation. And to me, I don't think I have really dove deep into all of this aspect of kind of mental health and well-being, and kind of just bringing that humanity back to oneself. I think it's very, very powerful, and I don't have the words to say how amazing this has been. And just to be the first podcast that I'm as co-host along with Marie and Marcia, it's one that I will remember forever. And so I just want to say thank you for sharing and enlightening me, and just really bringing hope and things that I can talk to all my friends about, to just be like, read this book. So thank you.
Any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
I just want to first really honestly thank you all. I will hang with the Abuelas anytime. And I'm so grateful for the work you do in the world. And I wish that I had these tools when I was in college and I was your age. I really wish so much pain and suffering of, not believing in myself and feeling beaten down. And, my wish and my vision that I'm going to start working on is to bring this to college campuses everywhere. And I want to thank you for just what you do and what you commit to doing in the world. I can't wait to hear all the things that you are in this world. Thank you. And for your listeners, I would say, if you've ever doubted that joy was yours to have or that you deserve it, I would invite you, please, to know that joy is in us. It was always in us. No one can take it away. No one can give it to us. It is our power. And I would just invite you to explore it.
And Tanmeet, you have a website and you have a beautiful newsletter that goes out. Could you please tell our listeners how they can sign up?
Yeah, you can go to my website, which probably you'll link to, but it's just tanmeetsethi.md.com. I know my name can be hard, but everyone can get it eventually. I always tell people just practice. But it will have ways to sign up for my newsletter, and it's a weekly, really, I think of it as a gem of how to live well. And I'm really doing the practice with you. It's not about me lecturing to you. I really every week am just trying to think of what happened this week that I can share with anyone as wisdom of what I learned about myself, or ways in the world that we're learning that we can be that might be helping us thrive a little bit more. So I invite anyone. There's also information about my book on my website. You can buy it from any of your local bookstores or sellers. I also have a list of booksellers that are especially Black owned that I really support, but I would invite anyone to really buy it from whoever you support.
Wonderful. And I would also add, you can also order through our favorite Latinx-owned bookstore, Tia Chucha Centro Cultural and Bookstore at tiachucha.org. Again, we are honored to have had our special guest today, and you, our treasured listeners. Join us again on Abuelas en Acción. We thank Familias en Acción in Portland, Oregon for their commitment to Abuelas and their generous support. We look forward to having you again here with the Abuelas. Gracias.